Hello everybody and welcome to a new video for Luck Poker. Today I am going to analyze for you a 4-bet pot I played in the last session I posted to see if I overfolded or not, and also I will use this as an excuse to speak in general about 4-bet pots. So if you missed the last session I posted, anyway it will be linked somewhere here in the video, the hand was like this. UTG opened, I chose to 3-bet from middle position, and UTG chose to 4-bet, and I chose to call with pocket queens. The flop hit Jack 9 deuce rainbow, my opponent bet about 1/4 pot, and I chose to call. Turn was the 5 of spades, he still bet small, and I chose to call. On the river, which was another 5, he shoved, and I chose to fold. Of course, this fold was mainly exploitative. I don't think it's going to be proper to fold this in theory, and we'll see it in a minute. But also we'll see how, when this call is of course correct, and maybe under which circumstances it may be okay to just fold our hand. First of all, I think we should look at the ranges, because the ranges pre-flop are very important for what is going to be our decision-making post-flop. And our opponent for betting range from UTG after I 3-bet from middle position should be something like this. It is what you see here in orange. So he should definitely have, of course, the strongest hands. He might have sometimes queens, jacks, and even 10s and 9s. Apart from that, and apart from some portions of ace-5 suited, which he should 4-bet as a bluff, he also has some decent suited broadways in his range. He has jacks, definitely. So he has king-jack, he has ace-jack, he has king-queen in his range suited. Also things like king-10 and so on. So after he raises, my calling range to the 4-bet should be the one you see right now. I should have some combo of faces. I should definitely have some medium decent pairs, jacks, 10s, 9s, but also if I chose to 3-bet with 8s, 7s, 6s, I should then call the 4-bet more often than not if I want to play optimally at least. And then my range also contains a decent amount of suited broadways. I should also have time to time some combo of lows with the connectors, but yeah, I'm not folding that much to this 4-bet. As you see, our folding range, theoretically speaking, should be only 32%. Of course, assuming we face a 3-bet of this size, which is not even too small, because this is like I 3-bet to 6.5 and the 4-bet to 19, so it's not even a super small size. It's more than 2.5, so it's a wide calling range, we can say. And after we saw these ranges, let's go to the flop. And on the flop, which was again Jack 9 deuce rainbow, UTG should take this strategy, which, it's no surprises he should bet range, because if you see at his range, it's pretty good for him. He has 9s, he has jacks, he has overpairs, of course. The suited broadways he has also have draws. He has king 10, he has a gut shot, he has the jack, of course, which is a top pair, he has king queen, which is again a draw. And also his strongest aces, like ace king, ace queen, will have good blockers versus my good hands on this board. And I have in general more weaker pairs in my range than he does, and I also have some, as we saw, some smalls with a connector. So if we go compare the ranges, we can quickly see how the UTG range, which is the one you see on the left here, is in advantage compared to mine. You see, he is very strong in this part of the range, which hits okay on this board, while I have way more hands which are just bad. Of course, if we change a bit these ranges, and let's say I don't have this many low pairs in my range, and maybe I have, if I take out this miss from my range, of course it's going to be difficult for him to see bet this way, because maybe I am going to hit this board as well that frequently. But as long as we're speaking about optimal play, it's fine for him to bet this way, also with a small size, which is, as you see, 25% and 50% are both used, and they're both okay. But yeah, I would say that in general here we should expect from villain a bet range, and if we are the original 4-better, of course it's fine for us to bet range. He bets, as you said, 1/4 of the pot, and this is what we are going to do. As well, we're not folding that much, because still, even if we miss this board with some of our range, the other part hit it quite okay. And of course we're not gonna fold the decent pairs we have. Even if we can fold the smallest pocket pairs, that's pretty fine. And we should usually call over cards. We can fold ace queen off eventually. This maybe is some surprising fold, especially if you consider that we are calling with ace 5 suited, or at least part of it, but still it's a bottom range. And if you see it properly like I'm doing right now, given the specific combos, we are just defending the ones with a better flush draw. So it is basically a double vector, and this is gonna be our bottom range. So this weak double vector, let's call it. We call a bit more frequently ace 10 suited, which is also double vector, but with a better overcard. And overcard to the 9 at least. I mean, we have higher cards in general. And also we defend ace queen with the backdoor flush draw. Look that we can certainly fold ace queen without the flush draw is okay to fold. We're not raising much. The only hand we're raising predominantly is pocket aces, and if I'm playing this strategy, I mean, if I'm playing this spot, I don't think I would have a raising range at all. I would just call also all times aces. I think it's just best in general. And ace king off is our bottom calling range regarding hands which do not have a better flush draw. So I mean, I would say this defense is not that difficult. Yeah, I mean, we should defend some portions of this low pocket pairs as well, but in general I think to one quarter pot bet, it's kind of intuitive that you can defend something like this. Actually, I think some people might be tempted to call a bit more, maybe calling also ace queen off, and maybe also ace 10 suited, calling it every single time, or things like ace 5 suited with the backdoors. So yeah, I mean, we have enough hands to defend that allow us to fold these hands which looked okay. So we chose to call. Turn is the 5 of spades, and here our opponent starts betting a bit more polarized, even if he keeps a small size bet. And as we see, you know, he starts mixing sometimes with things like jacks, which I think is cool versus a optimal opponent. We see he's checking some of his jacks, which I think also is pretty nice. And he is mainly betting things like overpairs and ace queen, ace king off, which have decent blockers. But you know, he's mixing some of his decent value, he's checking mainly some of his mid value, things like pocket tens, and he's also checking sometimes some draw like king 10, he's mixing it, for example. And let's see also the flush draws, because I think it's interesting to see how he plays the flush draws. And he likes to split 50-50 the one with the top pair, which again I like. It's a hand with which it's a bit difficult now to get value, because we block some of our opponent calling range, and it's also a hand which doesn't need that much protection, since we will be covered in case the spade hits on the river. So I really like to check this kind of flush draws in these spots. They are pretty safe to check, and it's a good way to mix your strategy. But yeah, you know, his range is still tight, and it's you know, I don't think it's too difficult to mix the hands this way. But keep in mind, it's really important here that you play some check with things like king jack, ace jack, and jacks. Jacks mainly because of course it's difficult to get value when you block this many top pairs that our opponent should have. But yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. So once he bets on the turn, still we start doing some shove here. We shove 9 queens. The only bluff we shove is ace queen of spades, I think. Maybe also ace king with ace of spades, yeah, time to time. I think it's a pretty unintuitive, and I will focus my shoves with ace queen, spade, and some of our value hands. We're not folding much, as you see. If we call the turn and the 5 hits, there is very few we can fold. We can fold ace 10 without the flush draw, it's obviously a fold, and also ace queen can sometimes be bluffed because we have decent blockers and maybe some equity, but you know, it's mainly a fold. And ace king, I think in this strategy the toughest and more unintuitive hand is ace king, because it's not intuitive to sometimes call it again, which looks a bit loose sometimes, and also to shove it is not that intuitive at all. So yeah, I mean, I think if you want to play this hand optimally, the main things we should be doing is focusing on these shoves, which they look a bit weird because, you know, you don't have a draw, you don't have that much equity, but you have good blockers and you want to have a shoving range, so it's okay to shove these kind of things sometimes. And I think that those are the places in which the average player is going to miss some raises. Folding, as you said, there is not much to fold, you know. Ace 10, it's an obvious fold in my opinion, if you don't have the flush draw. Ace queen also, if you're not shoving, we are folding, which I think is pretty standard. And if you take away these hands, we have basically always at least a pair or a draw. So it's probably, I think it's easy to defend this way if you remember to shove enough bluffs, which I repeat, sometimes people may miss. So we chose to call here with the queens, which was also a call, even if you could shove, which was an interesting line. And on this river, our opponent then shoved. Technically speaking, he should shove, of course, his top value. He still can mix his jacks. It would be cool to do that. And he is shoving some of his top pairs. He's not totally showing his draws. He's checking, of course, things like ace king, which also have a little bit of showdown value, but they cannot get, of course, any value. And as a bluff, the main bluff is gonna be ace queen, which of course has less showdown value and also has very good blockers. So there are no surprises, in my opinion, that you are showing this one. It's probably weird here that is betting 10% with the pocket tens, but you know, 10% is not really a line that I would took in general, so that I would take. So in general, I think I would just check with my tens and try to get to show them. But yeah, king queen also is an obvious bluff, even better than king queen. The ace queen, obviously, because you know king queen has less value than ace queen, and is going to win less at showdown. So yeah, king queen is obviously a very good shove on my opponent side. I chose to fold here, which, as I said, it's probably technical mistakes, because you know, as you see, he's showing some jacks. Or he's betting some jacks. He's showing he has king queen in his range enough, and ace queen as well. We block those, but you know, he still has some bets with his hands. And after he shoves, again, I went with the call, which theoretically speaking is okay. If we compare the EV, it's probably not gonna be printing money thing, but let's see, you know, yeah, the pot is huge and we only win like 19 of it, which is not awesome, let's say. It depends also from the blockers we have, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a call, not much to say. We can also call things like tens. Tens is our bottom calling range, which, you know, it's pretty loose. But something very unintuitive is that, you know, in four bet pots are big, and and ranges are very tight. So we should typically we end up getting it in a bit lighter than you would expect, at least on a theoretical perspective. Having said that, here it would be okay and acceptable to also fold sometimes king jack. Basically everything you see in a solution which is split between call and fold is your bottom range. So here our bottom range are the jack and pocket tens, let's say. Everything else is pretty clear. To me it's insane that he's calling with ace queen of spades. I think I would not do that, also because the blockers look pretty bad once we have the hand, but you know, these are solver surprises that sometimes happens. I don't think in game I would ever call with ace queen of spades. I think it would be one of my last hands to call, but hey, we are looking at this for a reason. And yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. So queens was a call, definitely, and they folded. So when would this be a good fold? I think it would be a good fold only if you expect. What we should do is to look at what bluffs or which hands weaker than queens villain is shoving, and then we can judge if our opponent is, in our opinion, playing this way. If we go here, the main bluffs are, of course, and the main hands we beat with queens are king, queen, and ace queen. Yeah, we have a blocker for those, but apparently he doesn't make much. But to be honest, also sometimes he shoves the jack, not that frequently, but he does do that some of the time. So if we take this assumption that villain is showing enough with bluffs and he has enough bluffs, or worst value hands, then queens of course is a call. If you expect villain to play differently, for example to pair and never shove, or to not bluff enough the 5, which I think it was my reasoning in game. In game I thought that the player pool is not bluffing enough when turn and river pair with each other, because it looks like a very easy bluff catch spot. So I think players are typically not bluffing enough there, and because of that I chose to fold my pocket queens. But you know, you need to be very careful making these assumptions, because you never know. You never know if your opponent is really reasoning this way. So unless you have a lot of info on him or in your field, I think you should still stick and call to call with these pocket queens. I hope you enjoyed this video, in which we had the opportunity to speak a bit about forward pots. We will speak about them more, but you know, one at a time. So thanks for watching and see you next time.